Hi everyone. Hope everyone is well and healthy. I am Pratyusha, the host of today's session. I am super excited to have you all at DSC Explore, done in collaboration with DSC NIT Agartala, DSC NIT Silchar, DSC IIIT Guwahati, and DSC Assam Engineering College. I am very much excited to have an amazing conversation and informative talk today. Today we have Mr. Vamsi Krishna, who is currently working as an SDE at Epsilon in the data engineering team and who has a great experience and knowledge when it comes to Android app development. Thanks for joining tonight, sir. We would like to inform our viewers that this is an informative session on Android development where you all learn about the basic stuff and how to get started as a beginner. It will be followed up by a hands-on workshop on Sunday morning, so make sure you all join that too. Without further delay, let's start with our today's session. First of all, I would love to know whether as a beginner, should we start with Flutter or native app development? What advantage will Flutter will give over native app development, or why should we prefer that?
Okay, so first of all, good evening, everyone. And yeah, good evening, Pratyusha. So thanks for that intro, by the way. So so the question was concerning native app development, right? So before I would dig deep into native app development and Flutter, I'd like to make clear for everyone present here. I guess most of you are from CS background. So one thing I would like to make clear is that software development are of two different types. Okay, so there is a software system developer and there is a software application developer. So when it comes to software system developer is the one who works on the network aspects, the data aspect and all, like data engineers and all these people fall under the software system developers who maintain the system of the software. And when it comes to software application development, in that aspect, we have one is web development and other is mobile app development. So in that sector where our Android app development falls. Okay, so Android development is like one of the part of software application development. So concerning your question, Pratyusha, so for a beginner, right? So let me comment upon Flutter first. So Flutter is not something which has been existing in the industry for a long time. It came around only in 2017. I guess when I was in my second year or third year, yeah, I guess. So it's a pretty new thing, and moreover, Flutter is still in its development phase. It is not a complete product yet. So what actually is Flutter? Is it a programming language or is it a framework? So basically Flutter is a framework just like Android Studio, using which you can develop apps. Now, if you would like to ask my personal comment, there is a video in YouTube which says that is Flutter for babies. So you get a rough idea like what kind of applications you basically can make through Flutter. So those Flutter applications are ready-made applications. Like you can, if you want to deploy a application which is not so heavyweight and you want to make a lightweight application, maybe for example your college fest application, or you would like to prepare something like a small business startup where you want to create a small application, Flutter is a go for it. You know, like, and also the best part about Flutter is it is cross-platform. Cross-platform in the sense, once you develop apps on Flutter, you can execute them in your web, in your iOS devices, and in your Android devices. So it is one of the biggest advantage of Flutter. That is the reason it's popular. That is not possible with your native app development. Native in the sense, as the name itself says, that something which is local, constrained to it. So native Android app development means you're native to Android, okay, and native iOS development means you're constrained to iOS development. But Flutter is not like that. You can develop anything. So, and also UI compatibility is pretty good in Flutter. So if you want, I mean, like I can give you a small example of what UI compatibility exactly is. I'll try to share my screen.
Sure.
I hope my screen is visible. Just a second. Is my screen visible?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So I guess you people can see the screenshot. So this screenshot is actually one of the app which was built by me for the college fest of NIT Agartala. This was Advaitam's official app. I guess now we have IM and Moksha in NIT Agartala. So previously we used to have Advaitam. So I was the lead Android developer for the application over there. So you can see here that this is a small list view. This is for all the events and all which a person is participating for the fest. So here, the list view is prepared in such a way that when we were meant to code, we were meant to like design this particular user logo, and we had to design the text, subtext, everything. We had to code it. I mean, from top to bottom. But when I talk about Flutter, right, all these things can be easily done in a drag and drop manner. I mean, like you don't need to bang your head much that what should be my text and what should be my subtext, and also in UI perspective, also Flutter wins. If Flutter is so good, then why are we not using Flutter? The simple reason is it is not a native app development thing. Because like what is a native app development again? Native app development means you're like specifically doing it for that particular device. So if I develop apps in Flutter and if I want to access the core mechanism of the device, for example, I want to access camera, or maybe I want to access the proximity sensor, right? So all those things, if I have to access, I need to use plugins. And again, those plugins are developed in the native language. So whatever, like it can be Kotlin or it can be Java, in whatever language you have written the Android app development you have done. So in that language only you have to write your plugins. And again, it's a overhead. So if you have to use anything, you have to put in a lot of plugins. Even if you want to access the network of it, you have to go for a plugin again. For example, you have to do caching, okay, like cache monitoring and all. That's a bit high level thing in Android app development, but I'm giving you a basic idea. Like, for example, okay, so if you see this image here, we have a slideshow of different various images. All these images are present in the cloud and they are stored in your cache data. So while accessing the cache and all also, if you want to do it through Flutter, then obviously you have to use certain plugins. So that's not, I mean, something feasible. That's not a healthy coding. Like you cannot do from base. You have to rely on your app development. And the other disadvantage is that basically size, like size matters a lot. Like in native app development, the size of an app would be around 50 MB, right? But when you do it in Flutter, it can go up to 500 MB as well. It can be 10 times more than that of what you develop in your native app development. So that thing also you have to keep in your mind. So I mean, considering these things, so I would just say that in a summary, I would say that if you want to build just normal apps, just to for your like maybe small scale apps and all, Flutter is a go-to thing. But if you're thinking about an enterprise level, like even some folks who are maybe placed in your final year in Samsung and all, if they work on Android, they basically work on native Android app development, that too in Android Studio in Java. They don't go for Flutter and all because they have to access the core components of a mobile. So if you want to build enterprise level applications, then Flutter is not your option. You have to go for in native app development. Also, like you people might be aware with C++, Java and all, then I would suggest that if you're good in Java, go for native app development.
Okay. So like what knowledge is required to get into the world of, as you said, Android Studio? So like what knowledge we need to have? We are talking about an absolute beginner. So what kind of basic knowledge we should have to get into Android Studio?
Okay, so this is a pretty tricky question, because everybody have their own answers for this. But if you ask me, like what happened with me, like what I did, so let me just show you a sample of an Android code, how it looks, so that you yourself can think that how confusing it gets. So, okay, I guess my Android Studio is stuck. Okay, this takes a while to let it build. So I have certain screenshots which I can show you maybe. So if you see in my left hand side corner, this region, like when I first tried doing an Android project, I directly just went to my Android studio, clicked on new project, and all these things came up. Like I was really scared. Like, what are all these things? I mean, what should I learn? What am I doing here? So, I mean, then I had to like take a lot of time to understand where is the Java part exactly, and where is like what is this XML thing, in between coming up, and what is this IML thing, and where are these TXT and PNG things coming from. So basically, for Android, you have to have important components. Like in terms of programming, I would say the first thing would be your Java. Okay. Now you would ask me that Java till what? Like Java is a very vast thing. You can go till
Yeah.
multi-threading, you can go applets, you can go to servlets. Where to stop? Till what extent do you need for Android app development? I would say learn till interfaces. Interfaces, and maybe you can go till multi-threading, like if things are fine, because like if you want to build basic apps, multi-threading is not that important. But if you want to really go like multiple requests and all, if you want to build an app where like you have multiple requests, you're handling a lot of get and post requests and all in your backend and all, so then I would say that you can learn till multi-threading. No need for applets, servlets and all. Those are mainly related with web development. So if you learn till multi-threading, I guess till multi-threading it comes under core Java. This thing is called core Java. Some people, they focus more on garbage collector and all, go deep into it. I mean, those things are not exactly required. Like maybe daemon threads and all. I mean, those things are not exactly required when you're doing Android app development. Maybe for your interviews and all, you can prepare, but Android app development, you can be thorough with your core Java. Once Java is done, there is a thing called XML. Okay. No, this is not a programming language. Okay, I want to make it sure in the beginning itself. It's a markup language. What is a markup language? HTML. We have HTML, hypertext markup language.
Hypertext markup language.
We have XML, which is known as extended markup language. So this is basically for UI development. So how are you going to do your? Okay, this is not yet ready. Okay, I have to go to my GitHub repository. Okay. I'll just show you a sample XML code. How does it look? So these are all UIs which were prepared. Okay, like if this thing is ready yet, okay. I don't know, like sometimes this crashes, it takes time to be loaded. So this is how an XML code looks like. Okay. So to avoid your confusion, I would say that this is something like, if you have you heard about JSON formatting, like JavaScript object notation, where you have a key and you have a value, right? Similarly, yeah, XML also almost works in the same. It's not exactly the same, but it works in the same manner, like key value pair. And these are components, your XML components. So every component, you're going to specify its location, its width, and some other properties. Like you have a property called gravity. So basically, like where it should be, like it should be in the center. Like however you rotate your phone and all, it will always be in center if you put its gravity as center. So if, for example, I need a button, then I'll create a like XML component of button. Okay. Similarly, if I want some text in there, so I can go over with text also. Button is one utility, text is another utility. And I have to set up all those properties for it, and I have to set its location. Okay, now when I say you to simply code it, it's pretty confusing. But in your Android Studio, right? So yeah, in your Android Studio, right? Like right now, I guess there is a Gradle issue going on, so that's why it's not showing me design. So if you go to this section, design, here you would be directly given a UI prompt where you can see the exact design of what's happening.
Okay.
But it would look something like this. Yeah, this is the screenshot. I saved it. So if you see here, here is your XML code, and here is the output of it, like how it should look. And also you can if you can see that the device over here is Nexus. So if you click on this, you can change any device, whatever device you want. See that compatibility Android Studio is. I'm specifically talking about Android Studio. You can even develop Android apps in Eclipse as well. But Eclipse lacks certain functionalities because it is not designed for app development. This thing is completely designed for app development. If you see that here, you can set your own device, and you can just check out the width and all these things you can do it. And even you have a drag and drop option as well. If you don't want to code, you can just go to the components. If you go to the settings bar, you have components. From the components, you can just drag and drop it. So I guess I don't need to go into details, like, because all these things are easily available for you. I'm just giving you a gist, so what it is. So two things you need to know. The first thing is Java, and second is XML. If you know these both, then you can build apps.
Okay, so that's really interesting. So moving on, like if we start talking about Kotlin, so do you think someone who has experience in developing apps with Java, as you said, should switch to Kotlin? Because you have said that we need to have two things in mind before starting. So that is Java and XML. So should we replace that, like prefer Java instead of preferring Java? Should we prefer Kotlin?
Okay, so let me answer this question in an interesting manner. So I mean, like, there are many programming languages which you can use for app development. So some examples I will give. There is a thing called Dart. This relates to your first question regarding Flutter. So in Flutter, you don't use Java, you use Dart. Okay, that's the programming language you use there. You have something called Swift. It's for iOS app development. So there is like, you have Android Studio, you have something called Xcode over there. So what are these Android Studio and Xcode and all? What are these? These are called IDEs. So let me put this over here, IDE. So IDE basically stands for Integrated Development Environment. So these IDEs are the ones which help you to connect to different libraries and execute your code, debug your code. So for iOS, you have Xcode as your IDE. For Android, you have Flutter. Flutter itself has its own Flutter tool. It's its IDE. So then you have Kotlin, question which you asked. Then you have Java, and you can even develop in Objective-C. And like, there are many other languages you can do app development. These are pretty popular. Especially Kotlin and Java, it's for, and like in Kotlin, you can develop iOS apps and as well as Android apps. That is the reason Kotlin is getting too popular nowadays. So it's just a programming language, nothing else. It is not that it's not like nothing like Flutter or something like that. Even in my Android Studio, right, I can code in Kotlin. It has an option. If you go and start your own new project, then it will ask you like which one you want to pick up. Like, see, you can see that option for Kotlin script. Kotlin worksheets. So this gives an evidence that Kotlin is just a language. So you can develop using Kotlin as well. But then I'm talking about compatibility. Java is suitable, like even in big enterprises, even though we have functionality for Kotlin, companies usually prefer having two separate teams for iOS and separate team for Android. And they both code in the native languages, which is Swift and Java. They normally, I mean, if you're talking about startups and all, they might work on Kotlin and all. But if you're talking about big enterprises, they normally do it in Java. Be it Microsoft or be it Samsung, they all work in Java. All right. So because Java compatibility is like, so how did Java came into the picture? I mean, before touchscreen phones, I guess, I mean, like in the olden eras, you used to have Symbian phones, right? So Symbian phone code is all developed in Java. So that is where is the starting point of app development. So that is the reason Java has become like a general practice. So like you can do pretty much stuff in Kotlin, but I would say that I mean, in my personal opinion, Java is more convenient for Android app development. So it's up to you. You can take anything. There is no distinction like Flutter and Android Studio. There is a lot of distinction, native and non-native, but there is no such large distinction between Kotlin and Java.
Marketing value of Kotlin is high or Java? It depends on the company, or there is like now we can see that in LinkedIn when I go through the feed, I normally see so many companies are looking for interns or trainees for web development. So now I am seeing that there is an increase in internship offerings for web development. So what is the case in case of Kotlin and Java?
Okay. So Kotlin, what you can do with Kotlin once you learn Kotlin? I mean, whenever you have such kind of doubts, right? Which language should I learn, or which language should I, which IDE should I use? Just ask yourself simple question: what you can do after learning this? You can do software app development. Okay, maybe you can do web app development as well. I'm not sure about the web app development part because I not personally worked it, but read somewhere in some blogs. So maybe you can do maximum. You can do web app development, but you cannot do software system development. In the beginning, I told you about a distinction between software system development and software application development. All you can do is application development over here. But what Java can do, if you learn Java, then you can do a lot of stuff. Complete software development you can do. Because I guess you people had the subject of computer networks lab and all. So there, if you see that they're also like for doing your what they say, socket programming and all, you normally go with Java. One small example also I would like to give. One of the projects which I worked on during my second year, I worked for a startup as an Android developer. So there, I had this project, very interesting project. What I had to do was I had to create an offline chatting application. So basically, this application was for. Okay, let me just show you. Yeah. So Wi-Fi dead. So this application was basically designed to enable like whenever children all are given tabs and all to study and all. So they are not usually expected to use the internet. So without using internet, the teacher is meant to give them instructions in their tablet. So this really amazing startup called Krishworks was working on this technology. So there they had provided me, they asked me to build this application which can chat using Wi-Fi Direct. Now, what is Wi-Fi Direct? Wi-Fi Direct is something which you use for sharing through share it and all uses the technology to share files. So without internet, you can share files and all. So to access this Wi-Fi Direct and to do socket programming is basically like basis for doing chatting applications and all. I had to restrain myself to Java. Okay, because it is very simple to do socket programming. It's not that you cannot do it in Kotlin, but it is simple and pretty straightforward. So when it comes to Java, you can do a lot of stuff, not only app development. So that is the reason I'm suggesting that always be in the profitable side. Market value, to be honest, Java you can do a lot of stuff with Java.
Okay. So one thing that keeps on bothering me is about Android OS. So what does it mean when someone says that Android kernel is based on Linux? What this kernel is basically about?
Okay, so Pratyusha, you can guess which operating system I'm using right now, right? You can look at the UI and tell me. Hello? Hello? Hello?
Yeah.
Okay, so can you figure out what operating system I'm using right now?
Ubuntu?
Yeah, obviously. So Ubuntu is the operating system, right? So now when I open my terminal, so let me just show you. So when I open my terminal, you can see that most of the commands whichever I'm using over here, these commands are applicable not only in Ubuntu. When I go to Kali Linux, they are applicable. When I go to maybe CentOS, they are applicable. All these commands, ls, pwd, cd, right? CP for copying and all. These commands are applicable over there. But then that is CentOS and this is Ubuntu. And there is also Kali Linux. If all these operating systems are different, then how are these commands working over here? How is the terminal same for all of them? So whatever you're doing in this terminal, right, is you're talking to the terminal. You're talking to the kernel. So when in the operating system, there are basically a layer, okay, of kernel. When I say Windows, people normally say that it's an operating system, but Windows is not an operating system. Windows is a kernel, okay. Windows 10 is the operating system. Windows Vista is an operating system. Windows XP is an operating system. And then Windows is a kernel. You have Unix, which is the kernel for Mac operating system. And then you have Linux, which is the kernel for Ubuntu. So what are these kernels basically? So these kernels are something which let you interact with the processor. I guess you're done with microprocessor classes. I mean, there you must be working upon 8085 or 8086. So there you were typing in assembly language, your code and all. Now, if I cannot expect in a high performing engine to write code in assembly language, so who is doing the assembly language tasks? The kernel is doing the assembly language tasks. So what you're typing over in the kernel, right? You're speaking to the kernel, you're giving it command, and the kernel is changing that language into your assembly language, and then it is changed into the machine language by the processor. So that's how the workflow is. So upon your kernel, there is a layer of operating system, like this whole interaction, this whole, like, think about a kernel like a house. Okay, the house structure is same, but the objects which you place inside your house are just like your operating system. Like the sofa should come here, or maybe this thing should go over there. That is your operating system. Okay, so now talking about Android. Android is basically written upon Linux kernel. So basically, it uses Linux to interact with its processor. Okay. So similarly, my iOS phones, iPhone uses Unix to, talk to its A13 or A12 Bionic chips. Okay. So it's like that. So basically, this is the thing which interacts with your processor, and it makes all the references. I guess that's clear. And you can ask me that I'm accessing terminal over here. How shall I access my how shall I access my terminal in my Android phone? So for that, you have an app called TermUX. I mean, you cannot directly access it, but you can access it through your third-party application or something like that, where you can access the exact kernel of your PC. So like if you can see my video, you can see my video, right?
Yes.
Yeah, if you can see here, this is the terminal of my Android phone.
Okay.
Just the same terminal which I showed you. Yeah, it's just the same terminal which I showed you a while ago in my Ubuntu system. So it's the same terminal. So basically, that's what is the main difference between OS and a kernel. Yeah.
Okay. So moving forward with the session, can you please throw some light on Gradle? Like, why do we use this Gradle? I have seen some people building apps without any prior knowledge of it.
Okay, Gradle, right? So Gradle is a very annoying thing. First of all, I hate Gradle. Okay, that's my personal opinion. But why Gradle? Okay, if it is so annoying, why do I need Gradle? Basically, Gradle is like it's like a friend who always insults you, but in the end, you need that friend. Okay, so that's a very vague example. Reason being, if I just show you a Gradle code, maybe I can give a better understanding. So Pratyusha, just try to find out, like, what are you able to make out of this code, like whatever is written over here. Are you able to like draw any reference, like what is written? Like, is it very confusing to you, or?
Like as I said, this Gradle thing I really don't understand, but here I can see like so many Gradle project settings and Gradle settings.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I mean, whenever, like, which is the programming language you're very convenient with? Like, in what programming language do you do your competitive programming and all?
I preferably use Python.
Python. Okay. So you when you use Python, you do some import modules.
Yes.
Yes. So why do you import modules first of all?
Because like we will be using it.
Yeah, I mean, we will be using it as in to achieve certain functionalities. Like for example, if I want to do a read write operation, maybe like I'll just show you a screenshot. Okay, so okay, not this. Yeah, you can see here that if I have to do it here, I'm doing a read write operation from a file. Okay, open file output. So if I have to do this, I cannot straightforwardly do it. I need to do a coding in the backend through which my program can interact with the txt file. Okay, so here is the file present somewhere. Txt file it should interact with. It should have permission to edit it. Then after that, it should retrieve data. Now, if I ask you to write a code for that, right, it will in itself is a very big project. In itself, it will take a lot of time for you to understand the OS aspects. That how should I call the application and how should I go with it. So to achieve your objective, that is not your objective. Your objective is to create an app. Then why are you wasting your time writing such long code to achieve this small functionality of reading and writing from a file, right? So to reduce your burden, what do? You use libraries. Import file input, file output, or import OS or import system. Okay. In Java, also like in C++, you use header files, hash include, bit slash std c++.h. So like this, you use header files just to have some basic set of files so that you can, you don't have the hassle of, coding things from zero. So to achieve that objective, you have two things when you're building high level projects. Okay, high level projects don't require one or two files. You cannot just do 2 lines of import this, import that. Your project is done. You cannot do that. You have to import a lot of stuff. You are accessing the sensors of a mobile, right? You're accessing the camera. Okay, all those things are happening. Sorry to break there. Yeah, you're accessing a lot of stuff over there. So to make sure that your access is smooth, you have something called, two things are there. One is POM files. Whenever you do large projects, if people have done internships and all in Java, maybe mostly, they might be aware of this POM files. What is this? These are page object modules. Or sometimes they can even be called program object modules. Okay, and next thing you have is Gradle. Okay, now the main villain comes. So it's the same as page object model, in which if you see the language over here, this is XML. I told you right in the beginning, there are two things you need to learn for Android development: XML and Java. So in XML, you're writing your requirements. What is the version? Version is 4. What is the name? This is the name. What files do you require? You have to put all the file name over there. What is the value? True, false. Mapping, simple mapping. So what you're doing is that you're just writing an XML file in which whatever dependencies you have, you're bringing them in one place. If you just write this, other all dependencies are taken care by the Gradle itself. So that is the reason Gradle is so annoying, and Gradle takes time. When it comes to versioning and all, Gradle is very important. You have to make sure that your Gradle version is compatible with the one which you are working on. Okay, you have another Gradle build as well, where you can do the versioning. Okay, let's see. So here you can see that you have a lot of .gradle files in which you have to basically put all the versions upon which you're working. So these are basically like, this is called something called loosely coupled programming. Loosely coupled programming is that you don't hard code what are your requirements, rather you put them in an XML file or a TXT file, and you make sure that everything is imported accordingly. So that is the gist of it. I hope that resolves your question. Any other, doubts on Gradle you have?
No, we would love to learn something about Android SDK. Like, what is the use of it? What it consists of? So we would like to learn from you. It will be beneficial for the viewers as well.
Okay, so SDK. What is SDK stands for? Software Development Kit. Have you heard about JDK?
Yes.
JDK.
So, but I don't know the full form of that. But yeah, people speak about SDK, JDK.
Yeah. So basically, okay, I'll start with JDK because it's simple to explain. Then I guess you will have an idea about what SDK is. So are we in sync? I'm not confusing the viewers, right?
No.
Yeah. So let's begin from JDK. Okay. So what is JDK? Basically, JDK is it comprises of two things. One is JRE and then JVM. So what is JRE and JVM? Java Runtime Engine and Java Virtual Machine. Okay. So these two things, this is the point where you write your code. This is where you run your code. Now both of them combined together makes your toolkit in which you can build your application. Like for example, if you want to build a car, right? The place where you design your car and the place where you get all the components to assemble your car are two different things. When they both are combined together, you have your car garage. Your car garage is your development kit. So this is your raw materials. This is your design. When you combine your design with your raw material, you have the development kit. Similarly, for building any softwares, you have the software development kit. So for Android, we have Android SDK. Now SDK, it should be compatible. Which version you're using, you have to mention it in your Gradle. Now again, our old friend comes into play. You have to mention that which version of SDK are you using, what is the compatibility of your SDK in your Gradle, so that your Gradle knows what are all modules should it import. Okay. So whenever you try to run your first application, right, you will face a lot of issue for Gradle compatibility. Don't panic. Just go to your Gradle files. There are many Gradle files. Okay. Go to the Gradle file under your, I guess it falls under your module level Gradle file. Go to your module Gradle file. There you have to specify your SDK version. Once your SDK version and default configurations of your app and all are done, then all dependencies are set up, then you're good to go. Most of the times, 50 to 60% of the times, the errors which you get in Android are not because of your code, or because of your Gradle versioning and SDK versioning. So make sure that your versions are pretty compatible. Okay. So that answers your questions, Pratyusha?
Yeah. So like when you were showing me the XML codes and all, it was having like some file having name manifest.xml. So can you please explain to us what information is contained in this file and why do we really need it?
See, manifest is just nothing but it is the okay, I'll just show you the whole code. It will give you a better idea. Every Android app, you need a manifest. So what are all these? These things are nothing but Gradle, manifest.xml. These are something you're organizing things in such a way that later on you don't, face any issue. Just like Gradle, manifest.xml, you are going to, Gradle is going to bring all your dependencies inside. Like Gradle is like a person who's going to get you all the components you require. Like for example, if you tell Gradle that you are building a car, right, it will bring you all the tires, it will bring you all the raw material, it will bring you all the machines and all. Now which machine to use when, and which machine should you set permission for, all those things are set up in your mainly all the permissions and all your working is set up in your manifest.xml. So this is like a official documentation in which you're setting that, okay, I'm going to use my camera access would be there, Wi-Fi network access would be there. So this is my offline chatting application, right? So that's the reason I needed Wi-Fi access, external storage, so that whenever you're chatting, your chat history should be present. So you have to write external storage. Okay, internet permission I just set up like that, so that once you register in your app, then you don't need to use the internet, just for login purpose. Okay, and also like the flow of your workflow. So you see something like activity over here. So
Yes.
an application consists of activity. Every process is called activity in Android. Okay, and there is an Android life cycle as well. Yeah. So you see, this is the Android life cycle. Like I guess you can relate to. Okay, this is fragment life cycle. Fragments are also like activity. They are like sub activities. Like you have threads for a process, like that you have fragments for an activity. So see, this is the Android life cycle. So what happens is that whenever you start an app, maybe you pause the app, you just you lock your phone, right? So on restarting, it should again start from the point where it stopped. On resume, what should it happen? When you screen off, what should it happen? All those things are decided in your Android activity life cycle. So how these activities are going to sequentially take place, those specifications you are going to mention in your manifest. Gradle brings you the thing. Manifest tells you how to use your things. First fix the tires, then fix the engine, like whatever the order is. I'm not a mechanical guy, so I might be wrong. So I mean, that is the order in which you are going to do your work. So here I'm calling the first activity. Okay, then I'm calling the other activity, the launcher activity I'm calling over here. Then you can see that I'm calling the main screen activity. You can see the order over here, right? And
Yes.
also, yeah, what is this? Like the name. Okay, this name is, if you go into this directory, right, you will find the Java code for this particular activity. Now, inside this particular activity, you have the XML file which corresponds to the layout of this. There is a very structured manner. See, sometimes what people normally do is that, okay, this thing is very confusing, let me ignore this and I'll go to some other thing. No, don't do that. There is a reason for everything. I mean, there is a correlation between everything. It is beautifully designed. This is just organizing things. Okay. Without manifest and all, you cannot develop apps in Android Studio, but you can still make apps. But that will be a very pathetic app, very dirty app, where you don't know where is the head, where is the tail. It will be like very haphazard manner. So yeah, you need to have manifest, and then you need to have your Gradle. Okay.
So like coming to the back end, I think the REST app plays an important role in today's world. Like every application, be it web or Android, embedded system, everything uses REST API. So how can we implement that in our Android apps?
Okay. So REST APIs, like what do you understand from REST APIs? I mean, do you have any idea about them?
No.
Okay. So basically, what is an API? API is an application programming interface. So like, yeah, I might like, it is sounding very nerdy, right? Like, what is this application programming interface? So I'll tell you what it is. So let me take an example of Instagram. Okay. Just minimize this. I'll just show you an API which I had built on Python. So since you talked about Python, I have certain experience in developing APIs in Python. Let me just show you this. So there was this like one good really amazing company like called Udan, which was doing, I mean, it had a task. So there they asked us to build an API. So what does an API do basically is that API is nothing but a backend server code. Okay, like for example, you need to write a program where you have to sort a list of numbers. Very simple program. Okay, you have to sort a list of numbers. So after you, I mean, if I ask you to do the code inside your Android app, like if I do ask you to write the Java code in your Android app and then I execute it, it will take some time for it to execute. Okay, And also, like if I'm talking about some machine level codes and all, sometimes C++ is more compatible compared to Java. Machine level. If you talk about your washing machine and all, the code inside your washing machine and all, if it is completely automatic, it's all written in C language mostly. Okay, not sure about everything, but mostly it's written in C language and C++ languages. So if I have to access data from the server, if I don't want to code everything over here and I want to access data from the server, that is where I use API. So what does an API do? It does nothing but it gives you a link. It just gives you a link, nothing it does. So this is my backend code. I write it, I run it on a server, and a link is generated. Once I put that link in my Google Chrome, like see if you see the Google Chrome as well, what is this? I mean, like if I talk about my email, okay, or maybe like any other link as well, Gmail or something like that. Everything is just nothing but uh, a web application link. So API generates this web application link, and inside your Android app, like inside your Android app code, you can just write that link, and then you get to access your you get the return value out of it. I mean, you just put a request from the link and you get a output out of it, and you display the output in your Android app. Does that make sense? I mean, are you able to get it? So what API
Yes.
is that? API, just think about API just like a link, okay? Just a website link where you're going there, fetching data, and then showing it in your application. So inside your API, there are two types of API. One is called the SOAP API, and other is called the REST API. REST API does not mean it's going to rest. Okay, REST is a full form for representative state API. So representative state API, why is it popular? Your question was that, right? So representative state APIs just give you an output. Okay, so the Advaita map. This is a good example. REST API stuff. Mm. All these things have been done 3 years ago, so that's why I'm not able to exactly figure out where the actual code is. But yeah, I'm getting to that. It is the main. So yeah, there is a thing called list of participants, which we were using in our Advaitam app application. So there, what we are trying to do is that we are trying to fetch data from our DB, which was basically based upon yeah, the DB was basically based upon NoSQL database. I don't need to go in detail about that. So there, what we're trying to do is that okay, here also this, we have to get value. So what basically we were trying to do is that we were trying to get data. Okay, that is a get request. This is the Python code. Okay, but I'm just giving a small example how the API works. So when you do a get request, right, whatever is present in the server side, the state, in whatever state it is present, in that state only I'm getting the answer back. Like if for users data is present over there, the users data as it is, it comes over to me. If I, for example, if I put a sorting algorithm back in the backend, the sorting is done, and as it is, the state is there, the sorted state, it comes out as an output. So that is called, that is what is REST in a simple language, representative state APIs. So that is the reason it's very popular. Like you can do a lot of backend stuff. You don't need people to know about Android app development, but yet they can do the major work of Android app development. So that is the reason REST APIs are very popular. If you know only one programming language, you can do all the backend code for your this Android app. Backend code are normally done in Spring and Flask, and other frameworks are there. So you can, that's just a backend part. APIs is a backend part. So I hope that clears your doubt.
Yeah. So, like, what kind of database is used in Android for persistent storage? And when we like talk about databases while developing an app, what kind of data should an app store locally and which data should be stored in the cloud?
Okay, this question would be best answered like when you switch off the internet of your mobile and you try to access any applications, you get to know that what is the data which is present in the mobile and what is the data which is present in the cloud. This is a very big question because the data which should be present in your phone and the data which should be present in the database, this is decided by architects, software architects, like who have leading experience of 8 to 10 years. So basically, it's not a very wise thing for me to comment on that, but I can give you a rough idea like what data should be preserved. Like for example, when we were trying to build the Advaitam app, so I'll just show you a screenshot about one of the functionality. So yeah, so here in the you can see my screen, right? So here whenever like we had this event of pictures for cultural events, so this was not fully updated. So this data, there were many pictures, okay, cultural events, like whatever on the spot people were doing and all, like a lot of pictures are there. Now if I put all those photos in the native data of the mobile, then it will obviously take a lot of space. I mean, I guess then your app size would be if Instagram goes offline and it tells that all the pictures would be saved natively on your mobile phone, then Instagram itself would take up to 100 to 150 GB of your mobile data. So
Yeah.
we should be very skeptical that okay, images I can go with cloud, okay, but when I come to credentials, I can keep it in your phone. Otherwise, every time you open Instagram, you have to again log in. So to avoid that, certain data it can be processed in your mobile. And when I'm talking about data persistency, well, there are two types of databases which you can implement for your Android app development. You people might be familiar with SQL because SQL is what taught to us. There is a thing called NoSQL as well, where
Okay.
data is stored in a JSON format and then data is accessed. So you can use any database. So basically you have to have a database whenever you're doing Android app development. If you're doing in a large scale, like doing an application like this, you need a database. So you have to make I mean like that, you have to go through like what database would be best for me, which code is very robust for me. The code should also be very simple, sleek and simple. So that thing also should be taken care of, so that it's all up to you. It's not something like hard and fast rules are not present for that. So yeah, you can be careful regarding that.
Okay, so my next question might be a stupid one. But like as I am a beginner to this Android platform, I have a general question like what kind of workflow should we have? Should a developer have like before creating app? Should we plan out everything, write it down somewhere, or should we just go with the flow, whatever comes to our mind, and like we experiment and we get the results and again we like correct it, basically solving problems as they encounter it. So what do you do personally?
Okay, so what I did was whenever I was studying for Android, right, I did a proper study on Android. Like I did a proper course. The courses, many courses are present. So I did a proper online course. Like because when I was in my first year, like I had this urge to do something web development or Android app development. Second year, I decided that I will do Android app development. So dedicatedly, I did it for 2 to 3 months. I learned it properly. So at that point of time, whenever I was learning new thing, I made sure that there was a small implementation for that. Okay, so in this way, when I was learning, I had the idea, okay, if I have to do this, I can use list view. If I have to do this, I can use the recycler view in Android. If I have to connect to the database, then I can use the SQL code over here. So that idea I captured when I was learning it. I practiced during when I learned it. Now, once if you are done with that stage where you know that okay, what are all the components of Android, what are all you can do, how to connect to a database in Android, how to use networking in Android. If you are done with that, then I would suggest that if you're building an app from end to end, then you sit and plan it first. Okay, like what your app is going to do. Once you plan it, then everything automatically your mind will start working on it. Okay, here I can use a recycler view. In this gallery view, I will use this view. So that thing would be clear for you. So when you're learning, go for the practical stuff. I mean, this is not something like this is not something like you're learning just bookishly you're learning it. Once you start coding, right, that is the point where you understand okay, this Gradle thing is not working. It will show you frustrated. I mean, it will get you frustrated at times. But yeah, keep doing it practically. Whatever you learn, small things, do it practically.
Okay, so like basically you suggest us that we should, whatever we learn, we should have a simultaneously we should have this practical knowledge as well. We should try and learn something, how it is happening and why we are doing this.
Yeah. While you're learning, practice it practically. But when you're going to build your app, first plan it, then you can build it. Okay. So
Okay.
when you're learning, do it practically simultaneously. Yes.
Okay. So like any kind of resources that you would like to recommend to learn Android to the beginners?
There are plenty of online resources available. Just that don't be very sure before going for any paid things. Okay. I have seen some courses which are around 14,000 and all. It is not worth it. Okay, so you can learn in free. Okay, that is what I would say. Like there are many courses available on Udemy, or YouTube is always there as an option. But the thing is, in YouTube is that you won't be provided with exercises and tasks to do. So I would suggest that go with Coursera or Udemy courses are there. So try going with that. There are also apps, Android apps, which teach you how to do Android app programming. You can also do that.
Okay, so like I have come up with a huge number of questions, and here I come to an end. And one of our audience have a question. Like he is asking about what is the difference between our Gradle versus Maven? Why Android uses Gradle?
Okay, so basically, Maven and Gradle are completely different things. You cannot compare. You can compare POM with Gradle. Okay, I mean, like, see, Maven projects are something which are done. So basically, I talked about the system developer and the software application developer, right? So when you're doing a software, building a software system, so there the thing is, it's a standalone project. I mean, it's not a standalone project. It is something which is dependent on other projects as well. For example, if you're working in an enterprise, maybe you're working in Microsoft and you're working on the Outlook sector over there. Now your project is to introduce some new techniques in Outlook, where even people can not only send mails, they can also send some video gestures and all. So that's an individual project, but it's not a standalone project. At that point of time, it is always suggested that you go with Maven. There is no big difference. You can even build Android apps in Maven projects as well. As I said, there is no proper thing, and I mean there is no big difference in that. Just that Gradle is very compatible for Android app development. That's all. So you can even build Android apps in Maven as well. So there is no such compulsion.
Okay, I hope like audience is convinced with the answer. So I would like to wait for like 1 or 2 minutes. If someone is having any kind of doubts, they can put it directly on the comment section, and we will address here. So we will wait for 1 or 2 minutes.
How many audience do we have?
Actually, we are in live session, so I think around 40 to 50 people are currently watching right now.
Okay. Come on, 40 to 50 people, I require more doubts. Either I'm so good or maybe I confused them.
No. Like we really had a great time talking to you. It was like I hope like the audience will be having a cup of coffee with them and enjoying our talk. So because you really connected to the real world problems which we really face, and when we start with this working with the Android things and all. The common doubts, like the questions which I really addressed to you, I got those things like what a beginner will really get the doubts. I really addressed those things, so I hope like everybody will be enjoying it. And yes, you were super awesome today.
Okay. Thank you. So anyways, like I guess there is already hands-on going on, so that's why I did not went into much details with you guys regarding the code and all. So I guess that I mean, like, mainly it's just a beginner idea to how to get into it. So I guess that serves the purpose. So yeah, I hope you
Like,
all yeah.
we have got one question like use of Python in Android app development.
Oh God. So that's a really good question. I won't say that it's not possible. It is possible. Like, you can even code in PHP also. Like, you can even code in Scala also for the app development. But the thing is, how compatible it is. Okay, Python is a integrated. Okay, it is an interpreted language. Java is not an interpreted language. So if I have to answer this question, I have to explain you what interpreted and non-interpreted languages and all, and that's a pretty detailed thing. I will give you in a rough idea. Okay, uh, what is the basic difference between C++ and Java? Both are object-oriented programs, but there is one subtle difference, that is C++ is platform independent. Sorry, C platform dependent, and Java is platform independent. What does it make sense is that C++ directly interacts, okay, with your kernel. I mean, it does not require any JVM in between, but Java requires a Java virtual machine in between to convert the code into bytecode. So that is the reason Java is platform independent, but JVM is not platform independent. Similarly, when I talk about Python also, there are certain constraints like that, so Java is like, you can interact with hardware, but you cannot interact as much as C++ does with hardware with an ease. Okay, it is very faster as well when compared to hardware. Similarly, when it comes to application development, Java till date, I believe that it's in the top. Like, even it can be web development. People may say that, like, we are developing things in Python and all. Yeah, you can develop, everything is possible, everything is fine. But then the constraints are high, a bit high. You should know about wrapper classes and all. If you have to develop apps in Python, then I mean, those things, it will take a lot of time. The thing which can be done in 1 week, you would be adding an extra week to do it. So why to take that much burden? That's my suggestion. Is that all, Pratisha?
Yeah, okay. So I don't think there is any more questions in the comments. Um, so to all the viewers, I would like to present something.
The last question itself would have taken a session to explain, but yeah, I just come up with a gist.
I hope my screen is visible. Okay, to all the viewers, audience, please note it down, like this code. Everyone note it down, because you will be getting a badge. So everyone, please note this code. Okay, so we have come to the end of our today's session. It was great talking to you, and we really learned so many new things. And what are the things we need to follow for learning or getting into this Android platform? We are really thankful to you. It's great that we came to know your experience as well in this field, and what are your problems and what you suggested. We will really keep in mind. And I hope like all the audience will be walking away from this session with learning something new and useful to them.
Sure. Thank you. Thanks a lot.
Thank you.
Happy coding. Bye.
Good night.
Yeah.